JB, we are jam-packed. I think we used that expression earlier in the week in one of our preview photos for this show, but we are jam-packed with
Yeah.
interviews, with previews, a whole lot of stuff going on here. Uh, Before we get to the playoff preview, though, and we're going to go through all five East Region playoff games, or the one that involves an East Region team, Frostburg State Wittenberg. It's not fully East Region, but whatever. We're still lumping it in. And
Yep.
we got to talk about a development that we heard about on Tuesday night over at Endicott College. Kevin DeWall, who's been a real big friend of the program over the years, the head coach there, is no longer, unfortunately.
Yeah.
He is no longer a head coach. Surprisingly, to a lot of people, I think including him, if it really came down to it, because we got no indication that he expected to be let go after winning his last two games with his team and going 3 and I think 7 this year. Yes, there were 5 and 5 years before that, so it was a downward trajectory for this year, but there's been an
Well,
overall downward trajectory that's been facing that team since 2013, give or take, and it's disappointing. Let me let you have your say on this one because you used to let me have my say on Coach Ardino back when, and then I'll fill in some blanks
yeah.
as we need to.
Yeah, I feel like in this situation, this was one of those instances where it sounds like certain promises made weren't necessarily fulfilled. Um, to Coach DeWall's credit, this past season they played one of the, and keep in mind there's close to 250 teams in Division Three. Their strength of schedule was in the top 20. So the Gulls did not shy away from playing, up. They had a young squad. They only had a couple of recruiting classes under their belts. They put 11 players on the CCC All Conference team. 9 of those kids are, well, they were supposed to be coming back. Now that this move was made, I wouldn't blame them if they started looking for other places to go, depending on the new regime that gets brought in. But I just thought, and I think you said it really well. I mean, I initially heard about it through a tweet from Mike Hanna around 10 or 11 o'clock last night, and I think you summed it up well with a tweet out basically saying that in this day and age, you got to give a coach and a program, especially in New England with all the different competition and everything going on, 5 years. They gave Kevin really kind of like 2.5 years, and it's a bad look for Endicott, and it's a bad look for the CCC. And I've had a few text messages back and forth with Kevin. He's really disappointed. He feels let down, but he's also, just like he always is, he's optimistic, and he knows that whatever happens next will hopefully be a better situation. Hopefully, where there'll be more loyalty, more truth to the promises made, and at the end of the day, he has nothing to be ashamed of. He had a great run at Hobart. I think 10 playoff teams in the 14 years where he was an assistant coach in some form or fashion. He, molded the highest ever Division III draft pick in Division III history in Ali Marpet, who's one of the top graded offensive linemen in the NFL right now. So he has nothing to be ashamed of. And I just think, I don't even know the AD's name for Endicott, honestly, but that guy just seems like he had ulterior motives here. And it's a shame for those kids and for the families of the Endicott program. But sometimes that's how it goes.
There's two things I want to point out here. I believe Kevin was only the second head coach in Endicott's tenure in Division III football, which is
Yeah.
since 2003. J.B. Wells was the original. He went to Bowdoin, and that's what made the opening fillable by Kevin in 2014, basically. There was a lot of time given to Coach Wells to get that program off the ground. And that was back when New England football wasn't what it is in terms of
Yeah.
today. It's a whole different ball game, and I was alluding to it last night or on Tuesday night in my tweet that kind of caught fire today unintentionally. It is what it is.
Yeah,
I
it
mean
really
what I
has.
say. Yeah, but
Yeah.
the other thing to think about. Let's use a little comparative strategy here. Uh, Yoder, Coach Yoder down at Shenandoah. You know what? 4-6, 4-6, 4-6, 6-4, 6-4, I believe, are his 5 years there. And I don't think anybody would be saying that's a disappointment at Shenandoah. That overall, he's brought some consistency and upward trajectory in the long run. But if you were to judge him on the first 3 years, you might have booted him at that point and said, we wanted to be at least 500 at that point, so goodbye. It got better, and it's supposed to get better. And after 5 years, if things aren't going the right way, I think even the coach would probably admit to you, you know what, it's not going right. Either you're not giving me the resources I need, or I'm just not being successful with what I have here, so let's figure out something to do here. It sounds like we have a coach that was trying to build and build and build. We've seen some great tweets about it throughout the last day and a half or so here. And, schools in Georgia were beginning to open their doors to a little school called Endicott at the end of the day. It's a reach that he was going to have and was having, and the patience was running out. I've seen some bad actors in Division III, James, okay? We talk about the beauty of Division III. Today I was at Springfield College, and their athletic director, who's been around for over 20 years, made a point to stop on the field during the interviews I was doing and say hello to you and me. They send their best out at Springfield to you as well. But they care enough about their programs and all the sports out there that when they've got somebody visiting that's going the extra mile for them, they're willing to go the extra mile too to say thank you. Now, that's a YD3 type of moment there. But on the flip side, and we chronicled some of this when Union College did what they did with Coach Ardino, we talk about kind of selfish agendas taking precedence in an unselfish division. And that's the thing that really concerns me when I see something like this. There's something that doesn't smell right here. And we've seen some tweet activity that would suggest to me that I think he brought up ulterior motives. Maybe there are some ulterior motives going on there. I have a sense of something that might be going on here. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. Because if I'm right, it would stink. Flat out. And I would call out the whole situation if I see it happen. But neither here nor there. The point is this. Kevin DeWall is a great coach. He's going to land on his feet somewhere, and it's Endicott's loss. The players, I love to see the loyalty we're seeing, especially from the classes of 20 and 21 that we saw in the tweet activity. And you know what, folks? Loyalty is going to get you far in life. So life lesson-wise, keep doing what you're doing with that. Be loyal. Play football. So if you want to play football, play football. Enjoy it. That's what Division III is about. But in the meantime, let's hope that the adults in the room act like adults from here on out, and that Kevin gets a really great opportunity, and that everything happens for a reason here. I really do hope so.
Yeah, hope so too.
James, we're not here really to talk about this the entire hour and 15 minutes or so that we're going to be going on here, but we wanted to discuss it. We are here to talk about Jim Mora's favorite subject, playoffs.
That's right.
Who knew? So we got 5 games to talk about, and I think we should probably start with one of those games right now. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
Western New England at Delaware Valley is the first one. Some people think it's going to be the most lopsided of the bunch. Delaware Valley, the 1 seed. Western New England, technically the 8 seed, if you really want to look at the regional rankings to draw out seeds here. And I'll tell you, you got a team in Western New England that started 1-2, almost 1-3 this season. You got a team in Delaware Valley that started out of the gate with basically a win against Wesley and hasn't looked back since. Western New England, do they have a chance in this game? That's the question ultimately. What's your quick view, and then we'll get to some interviews.
I think, there's obviously two different levels. I think, Del Val as a number 1 seed in the tournament, probably, should and will win this game. But I will say this, that there's been a lot in the last couple of years of people kind of saying these New England teams can't compete. And then all of a sudden in the first half or near halftime, it's 14-10, 21-17. And you're like, Now, I do feel that the Del Val, defense and their athletes that they have will probably be the difference here. But I do think that the Aggies can't overlook and just think, okay, who are we playing next? Because this Western New England team has enough athletes of their own, including quarterback Anthony Service, who we've had on the show that you spoke with up there in Springfield, that if the Aggies aren't ready to go, they're in for a longer game than they realize.
Let's go to that interview with Anthony Service, our second one of this season, but we brought it to him this time instead of having him phone it in to us, and it was good to see him in person. Very great player, good guy to talk to, and here is my discussion with Anthony Service. Frank Rossi here at Western New England with Anthony Service, familiar face to folks that have been watching our podcast throughout the season. Anthony, quarterback here at Western New England. And Anthony, since last we talked, you faced a couple of really good teams along the way, Salve Regina and Curry especially, and got through both of them. It was a dogfight in that Curry game, no doubt, 42-28 if memory serves. Take me through what you guys have been through the last 3 weeks or so to get to the point where you're going to go into the playoffs against a very good team that we'll talk about in a second.
I think from these last 3 weeks we've had some great opponents we played. I think we've overall just had a very good game plan going to the games, and we came out just ready to, knowing it'd be a dogfight, and obviously we just came out playing our best ball, and I think we've been making one step every single time we've played. So overall, I think that we're hot right now, and I think we can continue with this momentum and going into the playoffs.
Delaware Valley is a real juggernaut in terms of defense. That's how they basically beat Wesley to start the season. You watch film on them. What should we expect to see in that team, and how are you going to counteract that defensive powerhouse known as Del Val?
So we watch a lot of film on them. Obviously, we know they're a physical team. They got some big dudes on that side of the ball, and I think we're just ready to, we're going to prepare and just play our game, because at the end of the day, they had never seen us before, we've never seen them before, so it's going to be a different type of football from their perspective, and I think that we just got to be physical too. Bring no one's going to be a fight, it's going to be a big game, and I think that if we just play our ball, we'll have a great opportunity to win that game.
What's the excitement level? Obviously, you guys are no strangers to the tournament situation, but at the same time, this is a higher profile opponent than even last year, and kind of take us through, at least in round one, take us through what the feeling is with the team right now. Now that you're on a little bit of a winning streak and everything else, and in the playoffs, how's it feeling?
We're very excited. I think, my sophomore year we played John Hopkins, and it was kind of a little bit of a shock when we went there, and that game didn't end up the way we wanted to. But since then, I think we gained some experience, and going into this Del Val team, obviously they're a top opponent, and they've been ranked, I think, number 5 in the country, and I think I think we're more excited. Like, we're very excited, but more prepared now and more ready to go into that game.
Not going to keep you too much longer here, besides to let you give a couple more shout-outs if you'd like to. This is your moment in the sun. You had some great following last time you were on the show. So anyone you forgot the first time around, go ahead.
Again, I'm going to shout out my parents and my family, and obviously the team again. And then I have a couple people I want to shout out between Revolution Athletics. I trained there all summer, so I got to shout them out last time. They have a big part of my life right now, and I worked out there, so I think that's a big person I shout out. And just my family at home. I never shout out, obviously my parents, but I'm talking about just like my cousins. There are a couple cousins that play in Gardner-Webb University and Villanova, and it's just all of them. So just those people, and it's a university. And we got to shout out this university and just giving me the opportunity to play football again. So thank you.
Well, Revolution did a great job with you. Obviously, you've been showing on the field all season long. Good luck against Del Val.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. And that was Anthony Service of Western New England. And you can tell, look, they respect Delaware Valley over there at Western New England. There's no doubt.
You have to.
But
sure.
You have to. But at the same time, they're exuding a confidence after everything that's happened this season that they're on the right side of the roll right now. And one huge part of it is Anthony Service. But the other part of it, to me, the defense has had to play somewhat consistently. Now, they've been giving up some points. Against Curry, I think it was 28, and Salve was a little bit of a track meet at times as well. But overall, the defense has come up big when they've needed to, with some huge turnovers near the red zone, etc., throughout this season. And that's going to be necessary probably to stay in the game against Delaware Valley.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think the days of the New England team going into the tournament and getting blown out 60-0 is long gone. The Aggies are going to have to, and there's some question marks over whether their quarterback, his health is a little bit up in the air. Their running back may need to carry more of the load. And, sometimes with football games, it's a combination of matchups and injuries. And if Delaware isn't quite 100%, then the Golden Bears can give them a good run for their money. So I wouldn't count them out. I think they're going to be more competitive than I think maybe the rest of the nation thinks. But Del Val is still the number 1 seed, so you have to think that they're a pretty solid favorite, just given the talent that they have overall.
Let's go to our defense interview here, and Sam Olsson, senior safety. Went for seniors here because I really think the senior leadership, because of their track record of making playoffs and being in the playoff games, is going to come up huge here. If they had no playoff history, I would say this really could be a rout. Yeah. I think playoff history helps you here immensely, and Sam Olsson is one of those players that's going to be, I think, responsible to keep his team mentally prepared. Let's see that interview. Rick Rossi with safety Sam Olsson here at Western New England. And Sam, senior leadership has been a key thing here. I was just talking to Anthony about the progression with the playoffs over time. But this season was far from a sure thing in terms of playoffs. How has the senior leadership, even on the defensive and offensive sides of the ball, contributed to you guys getting back to this spot after that 1-2 start?
We had to face a lot of adversity. We played very good teams at the beginning of the year and a lot of playoff contenders. So I think that kind of got us ready for the rest of the season coming into conference play.
Now, this team that you're going to be facing has a couple household names really for this season, Devontae Ellis and Darden, among others, obviously. What is the perspective you have here in terms of what you're going to see offensively from this team and how to counteract them?
They're a very, very dynamic team. I think they start off with the run, and then on that, they can beat you with that. That's all they need. But I think if we can fight that, make them pass, make them become one-dimensional plus the pass game, then it'll be a good shot.
Have you faced a team like them, do you think, this season or in past seasons in terms of what they bring to the table? I know Hopkins was a couple of years ago. Give me kind of perspective here in terms of echelon of teams that this fits into.
I know they also have a very good back, just like Husson did. He's a big physical back. I think that compares us well because gives us a start to playing against physical backs.
Well, here's your moment of the sun. Despite the music, be good and loud here, so give your shout-outs to any friends, family, or whoever might be watching.
I'd like to shout out to my brothers, getting me through this, making me work harder as a kid, and my family, and all the team here.
Sounds good. Good luck against Del Val. And that was senior safety Sam Olsson from Western New England. Let's jump right over to Coach Emery, who I had not met personally before tonight or today when we're recording this. And very nice guy, helped arrange a lot of this today, and just very passionate. You got to think about something here. He got his team from 1-2, almost 1-3. I keep saying this, but it's huge.
Yeah.
They are a playoff team at 8-2 right now. And look, a lot of teams would have just cashed it in. They didn't. Yeah. And look at them now.
Yeah, sometimes the true heart of a champion lies in the time when you're knocked down and on the mat, and whether or not you keep up, get up and keep fighting, which is exactly what they had to do. And they had that win against Husson, and things just started rolling for the Golden Bears, and they took care of business against the two teams in their conference that could or should have given them a good run. And honestly, they took care of both of them pretty handily. The Salve game a couple times was getting pretty close, but the Bears found ways to make plays and pull away. So I think this is a battle-tested team, and they know what it's like to be down. And even if they end up falling behind 14-zip or whatever in this game, they're not going to quit. They're going to keep coming back, and that's a real it shows what Coach Emery has done. He's built a championship culture there at Western New England, and I think they're gonna show it on Saturday.
As you could hear in our last interview, we hit the Wednesday practice playlist in the background. Oh, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
But Coach was a little bit louder than Sam was when this happened, but you can still hear most of this interview. One thing I got to say, we had a very odd circumstance. I left there thinking I had no audio from our video. And what happened was it was 30 seconds adjusted, but we lost the last question I had, which was shout-outs to Coach Emery. Coach, I owe you shout-outs after this because I had to cut this a little bit differently than we made it. But he did have a huge shout-out for his family, his wife, the wives of coaches, etc., which we hear a lot right now. It's that time of year where it's the family holidays, and yet they're still out there coaching. And so
Still
Coach,
working.
Coach wanted to point that out. Let's go to Coach Emery's interview. Coach Keith Emery, Western New England, congratulations on getting back to the playoffs one more time here. And obviously, there's been ups and downs in the playoffs, but let's talk first about the ups and downs of the season. You start out 1-2. You almost went 1-3. I mean, the Husson game.
Close, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we stopped at halftime, it would have been. The team comes back and hasn't looked back since. How did you get your team to focus on what was in front of them to take care of every opponent since that point?
Oh, we put a lot of emphasis in this offseason, the fact that we were upgrading our schedule a great deal, and the fact that we played Springfield and Husson and RPI and St. Lawrence and added those guys to help us get ready for the conference or for a potential postseason bid. So it was real important, just the preseason and how we got ready for this season. And we knew the schedule would be tough. We knew Springfield was going to be better. We knew the challenge that RPI was going to be. And I think the guys just fought. They battled. That's one thing we stressed all along is that we want to fight, claw, and scratch for every inch. And just for that one play, the one play where Sam ripped it out and Zaire took it down to the 3-yard line, that's just fighting and clawing and scratching. So, I mean, I think that's one thing we've preached all year long.
Senior leadership has had to be key. We're talking with the guys about this, but in your perspective, how key has it been in a season like this?
Absolutely. 19 seniors, I mean, it goes a long way. I mean, Anthony's done a tremendous job. He grew up as a leader over the course of the year. Sam Edward is our one captain, did a tremendous job, but more heavily on the defensive side of the ball. Anthony more heavily on the offensive side of the ball. But guys who have game experience, guys who have been into the playoffs, who've had that situation at Alfred last year. So guys who know how to battle, guys who know how to fight, that help lead the way. Absolutely.
So we go into the playoffs. It's Del Val, and I'm trying to place how Del Val ranks against in terms of the playoff teams you face. I mean, Hopkins obviously, and Alfred you point out. Husson last year you beat, and that was a nip and tuck type of game as well. How does Del Val, from what you see on film, rank against the teams that you face?
By far the best team we've ever faced as a football team.
Really? Why so?
There's no weaknesses there. I mean, they're strong through and through. Their run game is tremendous on offense. Defensively, very, very stout up front. And then their secondary is very strong and physical. They do a great job forcing turnovers. We've done a great job all season long not turning the ball over. So it's going to be a big test of wills at that point. But there's no weakness there.
How do you beat that team then?
That's a good question, right? Wouldn't everybody
Let's go to Warren. We'll figure it out.
Wouldn't everybody like to know that, right? We're just going to have to go play our best ball. We tried it. Our big thing is one better. We want to get better and better every single week. And obviously at this point in the season, we want to be playing our best. That's all we can do. We can't play any more than our best football. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to go out and battle every stretch of the way. And if we all play our best ball and our special teams is clicking, we're keeping the ball, possessing the ball on offense, we've got a real good shot. If we don't, we don't. And so that's the one thing we got to emphasize in practice all week.
James, one thing that really hit me in that interview is when I asked him how Del Val ranked compared to other teams they faced in the playoffs, like Hopkins, Alfred, and Husson. He said without even hesitating, they're the best one out of the four right there.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. And I think Coach Emery is setting, the expectations appropriately for his team. But the good thing is, though, that they've been to the playoffs and they have gone up against some very strong squads. I mean, last year's Alfred team was the number 1 seed in the bracket. But this Del Val team, may or may not be as strong. We'll see. But I think the fact that he's getting his team mentally prepared for this is going to be the toughest game, especially for those seniors that you will probably ever play in your career, is the right way to go about it. And I think, it should pay dividends. I mean, the one thing, you have to watch for in these games is sometimes, turnovers or some crazy plays can sort of, get the ball rolling in the wrong way if you're the road team. So if Anthony and the Golden Bears can kind of manage the game early on and not, get too high or get too low, depending on what happens, they should be okay.
We're going to predict this game and all the games at the end of the show. We won't quite make it lightning predictions per se, but we will do it in an orderly fashion at the end of the show. So stay tuned for that, or as this day and age goes with video on demand, fast forward to that point of the show if you so choose. Yeah. Oh, wow. Wow, that's horrible. Let's go to the next game quickly, and that's Plymouth State at Brockport. And we had the pleasure of, we spoke to Anthony Cerasuolo for a second time. We wanted to also speak to another quarterback for a second time, but this one because of the injury that was sustained a couple weeks ago in the Alfred game.
Yeah.
Joe Germinerio, we've been trying to update folks as to his status as he's communicated to us, and you'll hear about what his status is in this interview. Before we get to the interview, does Plymouth State have a chance in this game is what a lot of people are asking me. And I would have to say, after what we saw when we did the D3 Blitzer show a couple weeks ago, the answer is yes, because at the end of the day, Plymouth State's MO is get that clock rolling, keep it close, and win the game at the end. There are times when Plymouth State's been outgained this season, and yet they've still won the games. And so that's kind of their mentality here. Shorten the game, and anything can happen. Is it enough to beat at Brockport? Probably not, but it's a way to at least give yourself a chance.
Yeah. Well, I know Logan Hansen gives them about a 90. Well, I think he's predicting based on his model that Brockport has a 99% chance of winning, and that Plymouth State will only score 3 points, which, that's a model. I don't know if it's reality. The Panthers do not have an explosive offense. So for them to to have a chance in this game is they're going to have to do what they do best, which is strap it up and just run the football, pound the clock, use that more, sort of pro I formation, just keep crashing in. Now, Brockport, with that big nose tackle and the 3-3 stack can be challenging for teams that are not used to seeing that. And if, with the receiving weapons that they have, if they can not get burnt for some long gains, then the Panthers have a chance. Their defense is very opportunistic. They scored, I think, as many touchdowns as the offense did in their last game against Fitzgerald State. So, they'll try to force turnovers, and Brockport could find itself in an awkward position here. I think the Alfred game was a good thing for them because it will prepare them for a close game. It might be closer in the first half than some people think. We'll see.
But if this guy that we have the interview coming up with has anything to say about it, they're going to be scoring early and often that first half and really take Plymouth State out of their element. If Brockport gets a 2-possession lead early in this game, I think it's lights out because they're not a type of offense that's geared to getting back in a game and into a shootout mentality on the field like that. Let's bring in that interview with Joe Germinerio. So the last time we saw this guy, JB, when you and I were together and talking, it was, I think there was like a eulogy being said for him by the Brockport broadcasters. He was a little bit laid out on the field. It was a moment that I think scared all of us that are kind of looking at this Brockport season and saying, wow, what a great year it's been. And a lot of people want to see it continue. We are fans, no doubt, of our guest here, Joe Germinerio, the quarterback from sophomore quarterback from Brockport. Joe, first things first, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm symptom-free. I passed my concussion test this Friday. I practiced yesterday. It went well. And things have been good for me. I have no complaints, and I feel 100%.
So you will be starting this Saturday against Plymouth State definitively?
Yes, I will be in for our first playoff game in 14 Sundays. I'm excited.
And I'm sure New Hampshire is thrilled to hear that right now up there. So congratulations, Plymouth State. You get to face Joe G on the field. But look, your team still pulls it out on Saturday. You had to be proud of the effort because that's the difference between possibly a home game in the first round, at least a home game in the second round if you can make it that far. And, if you didn't win that game, it would have been tough sledding. speaking of sledding, the snow that was on the field up there and everything else. I'm sure you were intently watching that game. How proud of your team are you that they were able to pull it out?
Extremely. I thought Jason Helwig, our backup quarterback, he did a great job stepping in. He didn't have any turnovers. He took care of the ball. He ran the ball great on 3rd and long and really extended the drive for us. And he's been talking all week about his double reverse touchdown catch. So he played well. The offense as a whole did great. I thought Tyree coming in, played Wildcat QB. He did a great job. And the defense, they do what they do. They allowed 7 points and really could add another shutout. They've been great all year, and it's nice to see us now 10-0.
That's right. Well, speaking of defense, Joe, probably don't know too much about the Panthers. I'm sure you guys are just starting to look at some of their tape. We actually saw them play in our wraparound or whip around show a couple weeks ago. And what I gathered from that is that they're a pretty physical, kind of old-fashioned style of football. They don't put up a ton of points, but their defense also doesn't allow a lot of points, and they're good at creating turnovers. So ball control is important. Tell us a little bit about what you guys have either seen so far on Plymouth State, or are you guys really just starting to get into the game planning stages at this point?
We know Plymouth State, they're a very physical team. They allow, I think, 9.8 points a game all year, which is very impressive. I think that's top 5 in the country or better. And we know we're in for a fight. I mean, they're here for a reason. They won their conference, and it's going to be a dogfight. We're going to try and attack a couple of their D-backs. We feel like we can get, if we get the ball in space to a couple of our guys, we feel like we can take advantage in that area. So, again, it's going to come down to turnovers and just taking care of the ball.
What's the buzz been like over there at the school? I mean, when we first had you on, obviously it was after the Hobart game, and you had a great performance, the 600 yards, et cetera, that were put up there. But there weren't many believers that this was going to be a 10-0 type season at that point. That was just hey, great game and great start to the season. At what point did this thing take off that internally at the school, it looked like the crowd at the Alfred game was incredible, and that you guys have just had a following, and we thank all the followers of our show that kind of came along with it as well, because we've been trying to give as much coverage as we can to Brockport. But at what point did this really catch on over there, and how's it been?
It's been great. I'm not really sure when it really started, but I know obviously week 1 beating Hobart and then talking to you guys on the show, we hopped into the rankings. We had our first career Courage Bowl win against Fisher, and we had a crazy comeback win against Cortland, which was big to put us to 5-0. And really it's just been picking up ever since. And obviously that game against Alfred, that crazy finish at the end, me going down, their QB going down, and capturing our first ever Empire 8 title. I mean, it's just been building up week by week, I feel like.
Are the rumors true that you actually stayed around after that hit and after kind of getting carted off and everything to watch the end of that game against Alfred, or were you on your way to the hospital during the end of that game?
It actually didn't take off, and I kept trying to figure out what the score was. So it was funny because there's a live broadcast, and my mother was in the back of the ambulance with me, and I told her to try and get it up. And I was pinned in and I couldn't move, so I put the phone right next to my face mask on top of it, and I was just watching the live stream there because I was a little bit, but I knew exactly what was going on. I was just so worried about what was going on in the game, so I had to watch the end and just pull it out.
To heck with the concussion. I need to see this game, Mom.
Hey, the championship quarterback for you right there, Frank.
Absolutely. Go ahead, JB.
Well, Joe, you alluded to it earlier. It does seem, that this matchup is going to be one. I think the defenses will have a lot to say. To your point, the Panthers have a very solid defense, but they did struggle a little bit with a strong passing attack in Western Connecticut earlier on in the year. But your defense really seems to have just been making plays at key points in the game. When you were leaving the field and when they had to resume, with your backup in there, or actually even before that, the defense came up with a big turnover to kind of keep that Alfred momentum from coming along. Is that something that you've kind of seen throughout the season? It wasn't just in this particular game, but it does feel like your defense has this knack of kind of being at the right place at the right time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that pick when I came out I think it was the first play after when the defense went out and they returned it to the 20-yard line. But they've been doing that all year, giving us short fields, but whether it's just forcing a fumble, an interception, giving us 40 to 35-yard fields, and then us taking advantage of touchdowns. Guys like Jake O'Connell, Rashad Baker, JB, Julius Brunson, they've been great for us all year. And nothing's changed. They've done a great job just drawing the ball loose, whether it's stripping and getting a fumble for us, taking it away with a turnover and an interception. It's been a team effort.
How excited were you guys when the brackets came out and you saw what is really an East region quadrant of the bracket in the bottom right that you're a part of? Obviously, you've got Del Val, who was ranked ahead of you all season long at the top of that. But at the same time, you've got teams that are not going to require, let's say, tremendous level of travel if you ever have to hit the road or travel to you, vice versa, I guess, if they've got to get to you. But it seems like a very homey feel going on in this bracket, and unexpectedly so, I think. How far do you think you guys can go in this whole situation? Is the sky the limit, or are you kind of taking a one game at a time approach on this one?
Tough question. Obviously, we're going to take it one game at a time. We're excited with the opportunity to play Plymouth State, and we're hoping to win that one to have a second home playoff game. You don't want to look ahead and you don't want to take it one game at a time. We're thankful we avoided the Mount Unions and Mary Harlan Baylors of the world in our bracket, and Del Val was the top one. And so, again, I don't make predictions. I just play. It's a game by game, and we're hoping to just advance week by week.
Okay, JB, lay out some stats. I know you got some stats waiting somewhere here.
Well, speaking of week by week, one of the, obviously everyone noticed, when Joe, wasn't able to play in the last game, but another, it kind of comes with, week 11 of the season. Another key player who's been a huge contributor this season for you guys was Justin Morrison. He didn't play against St. Lawrence. He only had 9 carries in the win against Alfred. Is he going to be available for the playoffs, or are you really going to have to lean on some of these younger guys like Christian and Tyree to sort of fill in the void if he's still nicked up?
We're confident Justin will be able to go Saturday, and if he's not, we know our guys behind him, they'll do the job. Christian, I think he came in against Alfred. He did a great job. He had 20 plus carries, and he was the workhorse for us going down the stretch, and obviously sealing that game with the touchdown from 1 yard out. It was great to see. We know Cam, he does what he can do, and then Tyree's been great for us all year. Whether it's him playing in the slot, him coming at Wildcat, he's been getting some carries at running back. So we're confident in the guys if Justin can't go, but we're hopeful. Obviously, our guy can get back.
So, Joe, normally this is that point of the program when we give you shout-outs, but we are going to turn the tables on you for 1 second here at least. We have a shout-out to Joe Germinerio Sr., who has become one of our biggest fans on Facebook, etc. He is a great supporter of us and a great supporter of you, and I believe your brother John as well, who's at Union College currently. Without that family feel, we're nothing here. We do this as much for the families as we do it for the players ultimately. So thanks to your dad for all the support he's given us. How about you? Anybody else you want to say hello to and send some shout-outs to that you might have missed the first time around? By the way, your standard has been broken. Your 3,000 views have been beaten by a guy from Merchant Marine Academy.
He had a 10-week run there, Frank.
He did.
10-week run. Veterans Day weekend,
It got better each week. That's probably why. So we're hoping we can.
Well, we're not separating you out this time, so we can't really go by. We expect you still to bring some draw to this, edition of the podcast. So we got that at least. But Murphy got 4,200 views on his somehow at Merchant Marine Academy before Secretary's Cup. So congratulations to him. But you were a long run. We'll give you that. So if you forgot anybody the first time around, feel free so that we get more shares and whatnot on your shout-outs. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'll give my father a second shout out. He's always good for me. Waking up in the morning to a text, "Are you watching film? How you feeling?" He's been so supportive with me, and he wants to play at times. It feels like he's constantly just giving me support. So I'll give him another shout out. I'll give our coaching staff a shout out as well. I mean, they're the best in the league. They do a great job giving us the best game plan to execute week in and week out, and just the team in general. I'm giving a shout out to all the guys. I don't want to you guys know who you are. I'm giving a shout out to the entire team.
Fine, I'm going to give Coach Potter a shout-out as well because he's become a friend offline, as we call it, in terms of hitting us up, seeing what our thoughts are on various things along the way, and obviously he eats, drinks, sleeps Brockport football over there. So, guy that's very special to you, I'm sure, every day, and probably is going to applaud your one game at a time answer that you thought was a tough question a little while ago. Joe, good luck this weekend against Plymouth State, and stay healthy, please. Yeah, we don't want to see a repeat of what we saw there, but you look like you got your head all back together again, so that's going to be very important as you face a very tough Panthers team. Yeah, well, that's no kidding there. But the Panthers team will be tough, so good luck. Always love talking to Joe Germinerio. Just kind of down to earth. We call him a kid, I guess, but a guy, and we love his family. They've been great supporters of our show throughout this season, as we said to him. So Joe, we're glad he's back. Look, we can't root for teams in this show, but we can root for players to be out there that we think are going to be game changers, so that we get the best quality product out on the field. Joe is responsible for that when it comes to Brockport ultimately. So any other angles or edges you could see to talk about before we flip on this game?
We broached it briefly at the end of the interview with Joe, but this, the status of Morrison, their running back, is definitely a big question mark. If that guy is healthy, he can do what he did to teams like Hobart and just crank out 70-yard touchdown runs. And if he does that a couple times against Plymouth State, then forget about it. The Panthers have only allowed about 10 points per game, but they haven't faced an offense as explosive as this one. And so for Plymouth State, they're going to have to try to mitigate those explosive, 30-plus yard plays. And if they can do that, then this should be an entertaining game. If they can't, then Brockport should win this one fairly easily.
Another game that folks don't have a lot of confidence in terms of the underdog, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them compete at the very least here. It's RPI at Wesley, the shortest name of a game out there in the entire bracket, and it will not be the shortest game because, yes, well, excuse me. Well, nonetheless, it's going to be a long game because I think you're going to see some passing attack. You'll see some Mike Tavinis, no doubt, and you'll see some Marinopoulos runs. Notice I can just say that name now. It just flows right off the tongue. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yep. That's right.
It's Marinopoulos spelled.
After 4 or 5 weeks, yeah.
But, RPI is going to have an interesting go of it here against a Wesley team that's, to me, the best team that they're going to face all season. Alfred was not that team that they were last year, and so I think that this is going to be a real challenge and test for them indeed. Let's talk first about some defensive players, or at least one in particular that I got to talk to, because I think that the defense is going to have to step up here. They are definitely at a size disadvantage compared to Wesley's offense, especially the receivers, etc. So they're going to have to put the pressure on in this game and also stop E.J. Lee. And one of those players that's going to be responsible for that is going to be defensive lineman Diego Cuitino. And I'm sure I'm saying it wrong. You'll see the interview to hear the correct pronunciation.
I think.
We'll see it in a moment here. But he's the senior defensive lineman, as I said, and somebody that's very down to earth and also understands what this team in front of them is. I think it's a huge thing that, a lot of these teams are in these quote-unquote mismatches, at least in the brackets. You have to face the reality first, okay? You're the underdog, or, if you're standing in their shoes, we're the underdog. We are not supposed to win this game. But you know what?
Right.
Knowing that, let's go out there, have fun, and do the best we can. And maybe, just maybe, we'll be in a position to win. And throughout Logan Hansen's prediction models and everything else, the truest prediction model is when you're standing there in the fourth quarter and the scoreboard reads what it reads, that's the prediction model at the end of the day. So if you can hit that reality, I think you have a better chance than to say, we're going to take it to them. We're the better team 110% and all the time, and we got the size, we got the skill.
97% chance to win.
Yeah, exactly. I just don't think that's what works in these scenarios. As long as you're realistic and then also just kind of throw caution to the wind and go play that football game and enjoy it, I think you serve a better chance at the end of the day. And the RPI, I think that team right now, that's kind of mentally in that realm. Let's see Diego's interview. Frank Rossi here in Troy, New York with Diego Cuitino. Now, I know I'm messing up that name, so Diego, I'm going to have you say it before.
Diego Cuitino.
There you go. And he is the nose guard here at RPI. And Diego, congratulations first off on making the playoffs. It looked like it was going to be a tough sledding there in the fourth quarter against Union, but the defense held up pretty well down the stretch, and the offense got the go-ahead score with about 5 minutes left. What was going through your guys' head as that was developing in the fourth quarter, and that game looked maybe leaning Union, but you guys had the last say in it?
Well, thank you very much for keeping up with everything, and I appreciate it. We always like to try and keep a cool head. We teach mental discipline over here, so we play the way we always play regardless of the score. We always tell ourselves it's 0-0, just go out playing like that. So the defense always tries to consistently be excellent, and the offense is always trying to be consistently excellent as well. So the fact that we were behind didn't matter to us too much. We knew we were going to come out in the end.
So when it was 14-13, that's kind of a grinder mentality time. Low-scoring game. Defense definitely digging in. You're a nose guard, and that's the perfect grinder type position. Is that what's been preached through and through in your time here?
Oh, absolutely. We call this place the grind house occasionally. Every single day we teach grind. It's one of our major covenants over here. And just working hard to be consistently excellent is what we try and do.
What did you guys learn from that Hobart game? I hate bringing up the bad memories, but I think you learn a lot from the adversity that comes along the way, and you guys haven't really looked back since that in terms of you've been onward and upward since there. What did you learn personally, and what did the defense overall learn during that time?
Well, I do agree that that the losses help us learn a lot more than the wins, so it's important to go back and think through those. And basically, we just need to play more as a team. Whenever the defense was going, the offense wasn't going, and vice versa. So we needed to have more unity in order to fully work as a team and do an entire game. So basically, it was just we learned how to be more of a team through that.
Wesley coming up now. It's going to be a nice trip down to Route 13 down in Delaware. It can be a very good home field for Wesley, no doubt about it. They get a very good crowd down there. But RPI travels well, we know as well. So what do you think we're going to see in that game? Probably the best team you faced all season, at least that's the way it comes off on paper. What have you seen in them in terms of film study and stuff like that so far that kind of, makes them look like that giant that they are?
Well, they definitely have a lot of threats on offense. They have a very good running back and a 6'4" receiver with quite a bit of number of touchdowns, I understand. But we have quite a number of threats on defense as well. And we're just going into it. We hope they underestimate us like a lot of other teams have in the past, and we're ready to take them all full force. We hope that they play their best against us because we know we want that in order to get better. We
always let you give some shout-outs whenever you do an interview, so go ahead, tell folks out there hello and anything else you'd like to.
Well, hi to all my parents, my friends who have supported me through all this time, and the coaching staff here at RPI. All my D-line coaches I've had in the past, they've all been super supportive and helped us and create the team we are now.
Diego, again, congratulations and good luck this weekend.
Very nice speaking with you.
You too. That was Diego Cuitino. And again, I'm just messing this up left and right, but Diego, I'm sorry. But at the same time, he told me this was his first interview since high school. And guess what? Knocked it out of the park. Did a great job. So thank you for that.
10 out of 10. There you go.
Now, on the other hand, we don't usually interview freshmen. And this was a tough one. I asked Kevin Beatty, who's the Sports Information Director, Communications AD over there at RPI.
AD by now, too, isn't he?
He's got more titles. We'd be an hour and a half if we had to go through those titles.
He's the man.
Kevin started there when I graduated from Union. We ascertained the same year, 1998 is when he started RPI. But he told me, no, go for this interview with George Marinopoulos because he's that kind of guy. He's mature for his age, and he's a local guy in upstate New York here. And we were talking about the whole facing reality and having, no qualms about just going out there and kind of winging it and having a good time with the skill you got. Marinopoulos hits me as the guy who hasn't faced the situation yet here in Division III because obviously, they've played their regular season schedule. He's only started for probably about, 4 games or so, give or take, is it now?
He showed up in the latter half of the Hobart game, which I think was around week 6 or so. But I think they've rattled off 4 or 5 wins in a row now. So that he's really been the catalyst that's helped them, along with their defense, which played really well also. But everything sort of coalesced after that Hobart debacle, and they've turned the corner and have been doing great since.
He's enjoying it too. I mean, we talk about the Dutchman Shoes game in this interview, and you can tell his eyes light up about what that atmosphere was. And yeah, the win helps, of course, but it's still, it is what it is. And let's go to the interview. He'll say it best. Frank Rossi here in Troy, New York with George, and I'm going to say it here to make sure I get this right. Marinopoulos. James Baker, eat your heart out if it's right. How'd we do?
Perfect.
Marinopoulos. James, practice, trust me. But nonetheless, George, freshman quarterback here at RPI. We usually don't interview freshmen as kind of a matter of course here, but George, you've made it unavoidable at this point with your play for RPI. Tell us, first off, when you kind of got the nod to become, play snaps in these games, what was going through your head? Were you intimidated at all by the situation? I know you had a couple years of varsity football at Guilderland. What was going through your head when you were told by Coach you're in?
When I found out that I was starting, if it was the Monday of the Ithaca week, just a lot of excitement. I was really excited. I tried to contain the excitement, but it was tough doing that. I texted my dad right after I got out of the facility. He was super excited for me too, and it was a really cool week leading up to it, and just being out there, it's awesome.
You're from Slingerland, so it is right down the street when you get down to it. You've watched RPI football, Union football, you quarterback in the Dutchman Shoes game. How special was that for you?
It was incredible. The atmosphere to that game was awesome. I've been hearing about that game for years and just super blessed to be able to play in that game.
Now, you've really turned things around, the level of success you've had, and obviously Mike Tavinis has helped along the way to sort of create the balance you need for that passing game to be successful. But you've had to step into a role that, a lot of people would say freshmen can't do this. This is just very unusual for a lot of people, but you're exuding a confidence out there, and even right here, right now. Is that what you're about? Do you have a confidence in your game, and does the team have the confidence in you right now, do you feel, as you get ready for this Wesley game?
I would just say I'm always I'm usually confident in my abilities of what I can do, because if you don't believe in yourself that you can do something, then there's no chance that you can do it. And I'm a firm believer of that. And the whole time I've been here, my teammates have been incredible to me. They especially the offensive line, those guys are awesome up front. I'm good friends with all those guys, and everyone on the team, they've just been really good to me, and it's just awesome being a part of this program.
It's a secret that running backs and quarterbacks need to be best friends with their offensive linemen at all times, so good thing you said that. We'll make sure you say hi to them in a few seconds, but first, Wesley, great defense, obviously. Yep. You've been watching a little film on them. What should a casual observer look out for that you're going to have to look out for on Saturday as you face this team that's probably the best team you faced all season?
They're big up front. They got some very fast secondary guys. So just game planning for that, trying to execute our stuff, play well on Saturday.
Now it's that portion where we let you do some shout-outs and make sure those offensive linemen get their time. Come on, go for it. All you.
Mom and Dad, you guys are the best. Love you guys. Offensive line, you guys are incredible. My grandma lives across the street. If you see this, you're the best. Yaya, I love you. And my sister Christina at college, she would feel left out if I didn't shout her out. So Christina, shout out to you too.
I feel like there's a Greek family bond going on.
Yes, there is.
Very Italian-esque as well. So I feel very blessed on that one. That you can go down that list like that and still go home for Thanksgiving coming up very soon. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
George Marinopoulos, freshman quarterback, RPI. I want to jump right into Coach Isernia's interview because it's a little bit longer than the rest of these, but he gives a lot of insight toward how they won the Dutchman Shoes game and the confidence he's got in his own team right now. And again, he's realistic about what is in front of them coming up here in the Wesley game. But at the same time, he knows their job is to go down there and do the best they can. And he's just listen to him. I think it's the best way to handle this.
Well, we started off, pretty fast, and we got 10 points on the board, and And the way that we thought the game would go, and when you watch Union on film and the way that they played their games, you don't get a ton of possessions. So we thought points were going to be of a premium. So that's why the first drive we went down, we said, all right, hey, we just need to get on the board. Let's get on the board. It's a little bit different atmosphere playing on the road, and especially playing, there for the Shoes game. So, hey, let's get on the board, let's get up, and then we'll kick it off, and Cap usually puts the ball through the end zone. So, we had that, and then, they went up and put one in right before halftime. And, that was a shock to our defense, obviously, because, they were doing a really good job of stifling the run, and we just had a little bust of coverage there that happened. So coming out for the second half, we said, hey, they're going to get the ball back. They've got the momentum. Hey, let's see if we can steal possession here, which we wound up doing, but we didn't capitalize. But it did tilt the field for field position, so wind up making them play with a little bit longer field. But it was one of those things where we made a mistake here or there. We had a missed assignment on a block here or there, and in those rivalry games, you never know how a guy is going to react. It's one of those things where is he going to do what he's done all season? Is he going to do his job, or is he going to play out of his mind because he thinks he needs to do something extra? And that's we had to calm some guys down on the sideline to say, hey, listen, this is just keep doing what you were doing throughout the season. So. So that played out, and our guys made some plays, and we thought we needed to loosen them up a little bit, and George was able to complete some passes, some big passes down the stretch, and Keaton went up and made a great grab there in the end zone. So it was, it was a contribution by everyone. It was, offense, defense, and special teams that got it done. And when you look at the formula for the last 5 weeks, that's really what we've done is control the football, run the football, been opportunistic on offense, been strong up the middle on defense. So it's play lights out on special teams. So when you look at it, you're like, man, what was the one key to victory? Well, it was a whole team win.
James and I asked you about the specialness of George when we had you on the show a little bit ago, but how poised did you see him on Saturday? I mean, I know the answer I would give right now is vary from what I saw of the game, but I just talk about his poise and his maturity as a freshman right there.
Yeah, he's he's played a lot of football in his high school career. He's played a lot of football. He's dropped back to pass a number of times. He's been in pressure situations all throughout his high school career. But certainly you never know how a freshman's going to react in a game like that with that much on the line. But he just it just looked like his maybe his heart rate just didn't increase too much, and it did not seem like the moment was too big for him. Got his feet wet, and we always say, hey, after getting your first hit, then you can start to play. And he got his first hit early, so he was relaxed, he was composed on the sideline. We made some adjustments, which it seemed like when we make an adjustment, he knows what the adjustment that we're going to make. He's almost one step ahead. And on some of the things, some of the throws that he made, some of the reads that he made, kind of cleaned up a few things for the offensive line. It was kind of like my mom's marinara sauce. It covers up a lot of mistakes. So he was able to get people in the right situation and call the right things for us. And then obviously that throw down the stretch was huge.
Absolutely. We got to talk to Coach Mike Traversa early in the season when he faced another red team in Montclair at the time, and that was a team that really Wesley struggled against. It was 7-6 at the beginning of the fourth quarter. Finally, Wesley kicks in 20 points in the fourth quarter. They also had to get 22 points in the second quarter against Kane, really, to put that game away. So this has not been exactly the smoothest of seasons for Wesley as they've adapted to their parts on offense that they're not used to. What are you seeing in game film, and what do you look forward to in this game? What makes you feel that RPI really has a chance in this game? Because this is obviously your toughest opponent this season.
Yeah, well, you're saying that Wesley's struggling in some of these games. It's kind of tough to see that on film with the way that they play. They're big, they're strong, they're fast, they're physical. They got a quarterback that can go the distance in a heartbeat. You give the running back just a little bit of a crease, he can go. They got receivers on the edge. One that's that's humongous, and there's another guy out there that he can run like the wind blows, and then they've got a kick returner that probably runs sub 4.4, and guys on defense, they just hawk to the ball. So this is a team that's built on speed. They've got everything that you want. They got size, they got speed, they got athleticism, they got playmakers at a lot of those positions. But all season when we started this season, there was one of those books, one of those college football books that comes out, right? And it's about 250 pages, right? And 1.5 pages is devoted to Division III football, right? And so on one of those pages has the top 25, and I just happened to look at it, glance at it one day, and I said, all right, well, top 25. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so there's 4 top 25 teams, preseason top 25 teams that we're going to play. If you looked at the preseason schedule and strength of schedule, we were probably in the top 10, probably a 600 winning percentage of the teams we were playing against. Plus, we were playing 6 of our 10 games on the road, and significant road games.
So you're battle tested right now.
And then now at the end of the season, our strength of schedule winds up putting us, I think, somewhere 10 or 11th in the country as far as strength of schedule. So we played against good teams. We played against winning programs. We played against guys that are super talented. Now, certainly this team presents a lot more challenges, but I think it's something that our guys are looking forward to. They've embraced the moment, and I think it's going to be a heck of a ball game.
Absolutely, I was saying earlier, your team always travels well with the fans and whatnot, so expect to see some kind of nullification of the home field advantage down there. But Wesley obviously is a very good home team along the way, so it's going to be a good one on Saturday. We were talking about the family aspect, and as you go into the postseason, the family has to wait a little bit longer for the quality time, especially as we get toward Thanksgiving. So why don't you give one more set of hellos to everybody back home?
Well, like I said before, last week about the families, the families, the wives and the kids, they certainly are, I wouldn't say put on the back burner, but there's a lot of things that you miss as far as being a coach. You're going to miss the plays, you're going to miss the games, you're going to miss a lot of things with the kids and the wives of the football coaches. They have to pick up everything. But Lynn, my wife, at home, and she's probably, as far as I know, is the greatest coach's wife that has ever been around. And she said on Sunday, when I was leaving early morning to come into the office and do all the football stuff, she said, okay, well, we'll see you after the game. So she gets it, she understands, and it's tremendous to have that support.
Well, congratulations to your entire family. I mean, it's an honor to reach the playoffs. It's not easy to do, especially with the pathway that you've had to achieve coming in with a team that was all, let's say up and down at that point, put it nicely, and you really put them on the up at this point. So congratulations and good luck this Saturday.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach. There's Coach Isernia from RPI. I felt like it's been a couple weeks since we talked to him, but honestly, it was, a whole week ago or so that we talked to him.
Yeah.
So
when
we do all these interviews, it's been a great time doing them, but they're all starting to blend together now on me. So let's leave this game in a moment, but let's kind of recap. We talked to Wesley early in the season. The 22-point second quarter against Kane, I brought up. The 20-point fourth quarter against Montclair. The tough first quarter and first half against Delaware Valley that led to a loss ultimately early in the season.
And against Salisbury. They were trailing at the half of that game, too.
This team is a second-half team, but when you hit the playoffs, you can't do that. You cannot. Okay, They did it against Linfield about 5-6 years ago in a game that Keith McMillan and I covered, but you don't want to keep putting yourself in that position, especially in these early rounds.
And I will say, too, and no disrespect to Coach Traversa and company, but this Wesley team isn't the same sort of talent level as some of the Joe Callahan teams of years past. I mean, they do have a couple of home run hitters. I know their quarterback has done well at times, but he's
Let me
not.
let me say one thing, JB. Defensively, I think they are. It's offensively, I think that they're having the trouble.
That's true, and I think the difference in this game, and this will probably be a pretty low-scoring game for most of it, because RPI's strength is their defense. They have a lot of senior leadership. They have their defensive backs like Sean Egan and company have done well against top receivers in the East region, like Brandon Shedd. They've held some All-American caliber guys to really no catches or kind of inconsequential numbers. So I think, RPI should be confident defensively. The question is, what's this freshman quarterback going to do when he sees some of the fastest linebackers and defensive linemen that he's seen all season coming at him? And it's going to be incumbent on the Engineers offensive line to just give him a little bit of time, and the play calling is going to have to be there too, to know when to hand it off to Tavinis and know when to try to get Ackerman, who I think is one of their top receivers, a chance. But he's probably going to be on lockdown because those defensive backs from the Wolverines are real tough.
Our graphic took a mind of its own there and switched for a moment while you were talking. And so I guess it's time to go to that game that wanted to jump up on our screen. Okay. There it is. Husson at Springfield. The law of syllogism applies here, as Western New England had a tough time against Husson, but beat Husson 21-14. Springfield beat Western New England in the first game of the season by a couple touchdowns, if I remember correctly. So this should be easy. Husson loses to Springfield because of the law of syllogism. It doesn't quite work that way, though. You got to play the games. And John Smith has gotten better as the season has gone on.
He is number one, the top rusher in the entire nation with close to 2,000 yards. Pretty impressive run for him. But yeah, Springfield, I think defensively may have an advantage here. We'll see.
Well, speaking of their defense, let's talk to two of their defensive players. Junior defensive end Nick Giorgio and senior linebacker Dominick Traversa. These are the two leading tacklers, as you'll hear I bring up in the interview. But I really wanted to grab them because Giorgio is not a senior, but he's definitely a leader in this team, a heart and soul type of defensive player. And Traversa, he is a senior, and the kind of guy that is going to show leadership in a game like this where he's got to keep his team's mind grounded. John Smith isn't the only weapon Husson has offensively. No. And the biggest thing is you got to stop him, absolutely. But you also have to be ready for the fact that they may switch up the offense slightly in terms of the balance to throw you off balance defensively. And so wanted to talk to him a little bit, at least about Smith and what their plan is there with him a little bit. And here's that interview. And we're back here at Springfield College, and right now I want to introduce everybody to Dominick Traversa and Nick Giorgio. Dominick is a senior and Nick is a junior. These are the two leading tackle guys of the defense. We focused on the offense a few weeks ago at Merchant Marine, but it's time to talk about the defense because that's probably the key to success for Springfield coming up, especially against the run game of Husson. And let me start first with Nick. You have this John Smith character out there with 300 yards a few weeks back, 200 yards plus on other occasions. This is one of the best running backs your defense has had to face this season. How do you do it?
So obviously he's a great running back, leading rusher in the league right now. So we're watching our film, watching what he does good, what he does bad, And then the Springfield defense just flies to the football. That's all it is, So if he makes a cut one way, hopefully someone's coming backside and again, you know what I mean? So as long as we fly to the football, do our jobs, we should be fine. Yeah.
Dominick, you've got the extra year under your belt and being a senior leader here. How does this team stay as focused as it does? How did you guys get to 10-0 with that focus level?
I think it's really been the experience and the leadership of the seniors. We got a lot of great senior leadership on defense, and along with Coach Hollick, he's a great game planner for all of us. He watches a lot of film, and he really comes up with a phenomenal game plan for all of us. So we just stick to that. Everyone just practices extremely hard, so we really make sure that we stick to that and come out on top.
Nick, it could come down to passing. It could come down to a lot of things this weekend. But overall, Husson is a team that's going to take it to you and try to grind it out. And you guys have to face an offense, the triple option offense across away from you all the time. Is this a matchup that you think bodes well for the defense for Springfield in this game?
Yeah, absolutely. I think run defense is unbelievable. You know, we have my guys up front, Joel Sedandi, Giorgio, our front three is really good at running our feet on contact, you know, stopping the run. So we're really comparing this team like a union from the Liberty League, you know, power football, ISO, that's all it is, you know, downhill football, that's how we play. So we're used to it, you know, Merchant Marine, all that. So I think, you know, this run Husson team, we should be fine against them with that. So.
With the seniors, how does this 10-0 season rank for you guys at this point? You know, what would a playoff win mean if you can get one as you guys close out your careers here?
It would mean everything. You know, just going from my first 3 years, we never had a season above 500, and just being able to turn around this year with the leadership of Coach C, I know it would mean a great deal to these seniors. We've been through a lot, through thick and thin. Us 20 strong have really stuck together. So, you know, just being able to turn it around from not having a winning season to now being 10-0, possibly being able to get an NCAA playoff win, that would mean the world to all of us.
Well, you got to be proud of one fact that some of the underclassmen, like the guy to my left here, will be keeping this thing strong for years to come as well. What is the future like from what you can see?
From what I can see, it's under great hands right now. I mean, Nick will be a senior next year and be a great leader like he is right now. We got other guys on defense that are really going to step up. And have already stepped up this year. Marlo Scott, Josh Corcoran, Mackenzie Alio, who just won NUMAC Rookie of the Year. Dave McMullen, a bunch of other guys, countless other guys that we know we're leaving the defense in good hands. You know, we all together set the standard. I know they're going to continue to carry it out next year.
Nick, that's got to sound very good to you to hear the senior leader over here talk like that, but you got to agree, I bet, that the future is so bright no matter what happens this season.
Yeah, it's, you know, it just really, the seniors this year set the standard for what we should be doing in the next couple of years. You know, Dom, Traversa, you know, Christian's out. Not the biggest guy, but probably the biggest heart, and he hits the hardest on the team, you know. So it's really just setting the foundation with these seniors, and for the next couple years to come, we have great talent coming in. So we should really get in the NUMAC for the next couple of years. Guys,
you know what the tradition is here. Our student guests always get the chance to do shout-outs. Nick, I'll start with you. Who are you shouting out to?
I'm shouting out the freaks on Springfield College, baby. Let's go. Run the football, hit hard. Let's go. Come on.
Dom?
Same thing. Shout out to my freaks on defense. Let's go.
Now, I got to look behind me. Okay, Nick Boehner isn't there this time. No. At least we got rid of him for one interview set. But nonetheless, guys, good luck against Husson this weekend and for the rest of the playoffs if you can get through them.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Guys.
Thank you.
And again, Nick, Giorgio, Dominick, Traversa joined us there. And James, the next interview, there's a specific question for you that came up after the interview, which was, who did Baker pick for this game? That was from Coach Mike Cerasuolo, who wanted to know, because last time I interviewed him at Merchant Marine, he was a little bit upset with you. I told him you picking a team is like the kiss of death, so maybe he wants you to pick Husson.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
That's probably what you should hope for, I think. But we'll see.
But Coach is definitely proud of his team, and again, better in his own words. Here we go. Well, this time I come to Springfield instead of chasing him down at Kings Point, and I am here with Coach Mike Cerasuolo of the Springfield Pride. Coach, welcome back to In the Huddle, and congratulations on the 10-0 season.
Oh, thank you very much, and obviously I appreciate what you and James do for Division III football and promoting the game, and it's great for the kids and great for the environment that it creates.
Well, you guys make it so easy. Brian McGoffin, who's off camera here, is a great help to us. We appreciate everything you guys do for us. Nonetheless, Coach, you got a tough duty ahead of you on Saturday. Husson is no pushover. A team that Western New England you had a tussle with earlier in the season, but Husson definitely was close in that game, 21-14. Western New England is a team you struggle with. You know, the law of syllogism says this is going to be a good game at the end of the day. What are you seeing with them on film?
I think it's going to be a great game, and Coach Price and his staff has done an outstanding job getting that program back on top, and we're excited for the opportunity, but it is going to be a tremendous challenge. They've got a great running game. Their defense is fast and physical, and I think it's going to be a great matchup. It's two big running teams colliding this weekend, and we're just excited to be back in the NCAAs and playing a great opponent in Husson.
Your defense, which is kind of going to be my focus with the interviews here this go-around, is really good against the rush, but John Smith is a really good running back. Over 300 yards early in the season, over 200 on a couple of occasions we know of. How do you stop a guy like him?
Yeah, I think it's playing assignment football. I think it's playing aggressive, and our kids have been playing with great attitude and effort all year. And just the things that we preach and just trying to contain him because he is such a good back, and our guys know that, and obviously he's a focal point of their offense, and that's going to be a major task ahead of us to try to stop him and defend the entire team, because they've got great skill players all the way around, and quarterback, and he can distribute the ball, and they got good speed on the edge. So it's a tough task, but again, our kids have played great defense all year and been very sound and very physical, and been doing everything we've asked of them. So hopefully we can continue to do that, and like I said, it's going to be a great matchup. We're really excited.
Put some things in perspective for me, because folks out there, you say, hey, it's a triple option team, it's the same thing every year, same offense every year. What makes this team, this Springfield team, so good, and how does it compare? You've been here a few years at least. How does it compare to some of the best ones in history that you've seen here?
Yeah, I think it's hard to compare team to team and things. It's just these kids have been, we've been saying it all year long, is doing everything that's asked them and that much more, and just giving great effort every single day, and taking the coaching and working together and coming together as a brotherhood. It's been a special year, and all the credit goes to the kids, because they've made a major commitment throughout the entire year and in the off season, and so just really special type of year and special group of kids to be around, and excited for them to get back into the NCAAs.
You're hosting. Talk to your fans out there. I know having a good fan presence is important in an NCAA playoff game. It costs a few dollars, mandated by the NCAA to come to the door, obviously, but you still want the big crowd here. So talk to your fans.
Yeah, we've had tremendous alumni support the entire year. Every single game, not just the bigger games as far as homecoming and parents' weekend. So they've been coming out in droves and supporting the kids and supporting the school and supporting the entire athletic program. So hopefully we'll continue to do that this weekend, and expecting a little bit of weather, but we're tough enough down here in Springfield, so they'll come out.
Sounds like the fire department's trying to put out the fire that is your offense in the background back here. Usually a good sign for us to end things, but good luck, Coach, this weekend.
Great, thanks again.
Thank you. Let's also talk a little bit briefly here about the offense of Springfield. It seems to me that Husson defensively is going to have a tough matchup here in this respect. They may be able to nullify on the other side of the equation that we've been talking about, but I think the true advantage here is that Springfield's offense is going to be able to put up 40 points in a game like this.
Yeah, I mean, they have so many weapons. I mean, you have Jordan Wilcox, who's the 5th ranked rusher in the nation with about 1,600, maybe 1,700 rushing yards. At fullback, you have a guy like Hunter Belzo, who can run it for 90 yards. Jake Eglantine is a great quarterback. He can run. He can also pass the ball if he has to. There are just plenty of weapons on the Springfield team to mix it up and to make it really challenging for Husson defensively. They think they may have stopped one play, and then all of a sudden, they're doing something else, or either throwing the ball over the top, or then all of a sudden Belzo's taking off and blasting down the field. So it's going to be a tough day for the Eagles defense. They definitely have not faced a team this explosive in the ECFC. They did have a week 1 battle against Union, but I would say this Springfield team is another step above, and they're going to bring it.
Special team this year, and you heard that discussion with Coach Cerasuolo there about how special they really are with all the teams that he's had.
Congratulations to Coach Mike to be the inaugural Coach of the Year for the new MAC. So well deserved. 10-0 is 10-0, and hey, it's a great accomplishment, and hopefully it won't make him angry a little later. We'll see.
Coach Mike DeLong was in the area recently too, visiting the team and everything else. So always good to see the old ball coach come back and say hello. But he set a great standard for what's currently there at Springfield. And we have one game left to talk about. Only one of the teams, though, is an East Region team, and that's going to be coming up in a moment on our graphic. But trust me when I say it's Frostburg State versus Wittenberg, and there it is.
This is the main event, in my opinion. I mean, as all due respect to the New England other teams, I mean, you got number 12 playing number 15. Wittenberg is potentially a 2 or 3 seed in their bracket. Frostburg has had some tough games the last couple of weeks. We had a really great conversation with Coach Fitzgerald. I mean, I would run through a wall for that guy. I'm kind of disappointed. We should have had him on the show in week 1, man. That guy is, no nonsense, and he's done amazing jobs throughout his career, turning around programs. And, this Frostburg team is really interesting because they have all the components, and they're going up against a team that theoretically is at least, could be expected to go face Mount Union for a quarterfinal, semifinal type of berth here. But don't count out the Bobcats, man. They have a lot of weapons. Their defense is tough. They have a great offense that can put up a lot of points. This is going to be one of the best round 1 games in the nation, hands down.
You brought up the interview. Let's go to it. DeLane Fitzgerald, who honestly, I enjoyed this immensely. So let's go right to it.
Yeah.
James, we're bringing in Coach DeLane Fitzgerald from Frostburg State, and boy, what a run Frostburg State has had over the last few years under Coach Fitzgerald. Started at 4-6 in his first year, but the last 2 seasons, 1 loss in the regular season each year. Coach, the first question I have for you is, this season played out a lot like last season. You lost to Wesley, you finished with 1 loss. Last year, you don't make the playoffs. This year, you do. But was it tough to get your team to buy into the idea that, hey, guys, after the Wesley loss in overtime, we can still make the playoffs? How did you get them to focus in on the prize ultimately for the rest of the season, despite what happened last year?
Our football program is built on the fact that we're going to line up and do our best each week. And let's do everything we can do to be successful the following ball game. So we don't look a whole lot ahead as far as down the line and playoff selection and bowl game selection and things like that. We try to get the young men in our program, and there's 125 of them. We try to get them as much as possible just to focus on the next opponent and only the next opponent. Now, I have to be honest with you guys in saying when the rumors come out of who was in the field and who was out of the field and people start making predictions 2 weeks before the season ends and a week before the season ends, we had to go into a team meeting and kind of get them refocused and get them to stop believing and listening to what other people were saying.
Well, that makes sense. And, I was looking at the last couple of games of your schedule. Obviously, to your left there, you got the Regency Cup. You guys had a really tough game against Salisbury. The week before, you had a tough game with Kane. It feels like your team, for better or for worse, is at least battle tested for the playoffs. You're going to be taking on a Wittenberg team that's pretty strong as well. What are your thoughts on the last couple of weeks, how those games have prepared you for a tough opponent like the Tigers?
Yeah, we ran into the injury bug, and we had a couple of young men showed some lack of discipline, so we had some disciplinary issues that we had to work through. The last couple of weeks, playing Kane University out of New Jersey is tough as playing anybody in the country, and Dan Garrett, their head coach, always has them playing very, very well on defense. We went into that game missing 6 of our offensive starters, and wow, for lack of a better term, we had to scratch out a victory in the second half. We were down 11 at halftime, had to come back and win that game. And then you have your reward for having a comeback victory is you get Salisbury the following week, which is traditionally one of the better teams in the country. We are the 2 Division III state schools. So it's always going to be a rivalry here. We're located on the western end of the state, there on the eastern end of the state. All of our players played high school football with and against all of their players and vice versa. Our coaches recruit, our 2 coaching staffs recruit the exact same high schools against each other. It's a healthy rivalry, guys, but it's always going to be a rivalry. And we've played this 4 times now. 4 times we played Salisbury, and all 4 games have been very tight.
Coach, the key to playoff success is often depth because of the injury bug that bites you throughout the, especially second half of the season. You talked about your injuries a couple of weeks ago that you were experiencing. What is the status of your team overall? How is the offense shaping up right now?
we're as healthy on defense as we've been all fall, and I don't have any problem talking with you guys about this. We haven't been healthy for any of our 10 games. We haven't had everybody for any of our 10, and our best wide receiver rolls his ankle in camp, and we don't see him the whole first month of the season. And now Sergio's back and playing well for us. We've had a bump and a bruise here and a bump and a bruise there, and we've been missing people. To answer your question specifically, we were without those 6 offensive starters against Kane. We come back last week. We got 2 of them off of the injury list, and they played against Salisbury. We'll get 1 or 2 more back this week. So to answer your question, we're going to be as healthy this week as we've been since the middle of October.
Coach, how important is it for you all to come out to a fast start? When I look at your statistics just from a scoring perspective, you guys have scored about 200 points in the first half of the season compared to your opponents scoring about 80 points. So you basically doubled them up. Points are going to be hard to come by from a team as strong as Wittenberg, but how important is it for your game plan to get on the board as quickly as possible?
Up until the last 2 weeks, we've started very, very fast on offense, and then we've slowed down some. I would say this: whether we start fast or we don't start fast, we're going to have confidence in each other. This is a close-knit, family-type atmosphere in this football program, and the players believe in the coaches, and the coaches believe in the players. And we believe this: if we have to win a game 41-40, we'll win a game that way. But we're also capable of winning a football game 7-0. Would I like us to start fast on Saturday? Yes, sir. Of course we would. We'd like to score 28 points in the first quarter. Wittenberg's too good to let that happen. But whichever way we have to scratch and claw to win a football game, we're prepared to do that.
The key is if you score the 28.
Weather's going to play a huge factor on Saturday, and the Wittenberg coaches know it, and our coaching staff knows it too.
Sorry to interrupt you. I was just going to say, though, if you score 28 in the first quarter, though, make sure Wittenberg doesn't score 28 in the first quarter as well, because they're that kind of team. But hey,
they're
Coach,
good enough on offense to do that.
Oh, absolutely they are. And, we were joking before we started with you, hey, congratulations, you got Wittenberg. You're not in the East pod over there, but you get Wittenberg. Congratulations on that one. And that's said with all the sarcasm in the world there. Coach, I highlighted earlier, you start 4-6. You, I think, go 6-4 after that, and then 10-1 with the bowl game last year, 9-1 so far this year. You go from the Empire 8 to the NJAC. Wow, I mean, a big drop off there, not in terms of the conferences as you did the 4-6 to 6-4 turn. This is a success level that has not been seen in what we call the D3Football.com era of college football Division III at Frostburg. Yep. And so what has caused this turnaround besides you? I mean, what have you done to cause it at the end of the day to a point where you were really touted inside the top teens, I think it was, in the initial polls that came out this season, not just ours at D3Football.com, but across the country, people took notice of your program suddenly. What has happened there?
I could take an hour and answer this question because there's a whole bunch of answers to it. Let's do this. We'll do this one, okay? All of my coaching stints as an assistant coach, Bridgeton Academy, James Madison, UT Martin, Bethel University, back to Southern Virginia University, which is right down the road from my hometown. They've all been rebuilding jobs. And I had the privilege and the honor of working for Mickey Matthews at James Madison and joining his staff after a 2-9 season and watching them build a national title team. I took the job at UT Martin, and UT Martin had been the losingest 1AA scholarship football program like in the 20 years that they had been 1AA. And I watched our staff there build a winner and build a conference champion and build a playoff team there, and then took the coordinator's job at Bethel University under Dino Kaklis and had the pleasure of working for him and watching him turn around a program that hadn't had a winning season at that point in 2005. They hadn't had a winning season since 1933 or 34. There was one living person that had a winning football season at Bethel University when we turned it around there. And then I take the job at Southern Virginia to be closer to family and just continue to be a coordinator. And we had to turn around that program in one of the longest turnaround processes I've ever seen. But I went from being an assistant to being a coordinator to being the head coach there, and it took us a long, long time. But to answer your question specifically, I kind of sort of think it's what I do. is turn football programs around. And when our staff left Southern Virginia for Frostburg State, we had done it at a place that was extremely difficult against all odds there. The religious requirement there made it very, very limited. The lack of majors, the lack of enrollment, the academic standards at Southern Virginia are high. So if we thought this, if we could go 8-2 at Southern Virginia, which we did in 2013, if we take a state school job at a school that has all the majors under the sun, and I think we have 44 here, and is reasonably priced, and we have some administrative support, we're going to have a chance to be really, really good. And I'll give you one more part to this answer. Our administration here is top notch. Now I've worked for 3 presidents in 4 seasons here, but all 3 of them have been pretty good. Ronald Nowacek here, that is here now, spent 20-some years at Clemson, so he understands that football can change the atmosphere, change the campus, and can change people's moods in town and on campus. So he's been supportive, and Vice President Dave Rose, who hired me, has been extremely supportive. And then our athletic director was a college athlete and does a real nice job of allowing us to have what we need. He doesn't always give me what I want, but he gives our coaching staff what we need.
Hey, Coach, do you have any need for a 41-year-old with some eligibility left? Because your elevator speeches right now are just getting me to the mood. I want to put on the pads for you right now.
I tell the players all the time, the adrenaline will take me at least through 1 drive, so you probably have 1 series in you.
Yeah, there you go. I like that. Coach, just for those that don't realize and might not be able to see it, to your left is, I think, a trophy you're very proud of right now that you won last weekend, the Regions Cup. To your right, those helmets are top-notch, unique. We don't think we've seen the, what are they, the chrome-type helmets there?
Red chrome.
Yep, beautiful.
Yes.
And so the admin and support there to get helmets that look as beautiful as that is one piece of that as well. And the third thing I want to say to you is we have a standing tradition normally with players, but also the first-time coach guests that we have to give shout-outs. And so please feel free. I know family becomes a big deal as we get closer to Thanksgiving when they think that maybe you're going to be home for Thanksgiving time fully and you're still in the playoffs perhaps. It takes its toll, but at the same time, having a supportive family is a true blessing, I know, this time of year. So go ahead, family, friends, players, whoever you want to. The floor is yours for shout-outs.
Yeah, shout-outs. We'd have to start with the wives, the coaches' wives, and what they endure during the season and go through. I said before, this is a family environment here, so our wives and kids are around the coaches' offices probably a lot more than a lot of other football programs. But the wives and the children, I have the coach's curse, so I have all daughters. My daughters crawl on the bus after the away games and ride the bus home with us, and that's the highlight of their week. Some of the players on the team are their idols, so they like hanging out with them on the bus. Now, it becomes a little bit of a problem when we get home and they're sleeping, and I have to carry them off the bus individually. But we like having the wives and the kids and stuff around, and all of our staff has them. As far as the shout-outs, here would be the shout-out from me. When this thing is done, whether it's done this week or it's done 5 weeks from now, which is the plan, we're going to say goodbye to 19 seniors. From the bottom of our hearts, all of our love goes to them. That they signed up for a coaching staff that was unproven at Frostburg State University, and they signed up to play at a football program that had just come off of a 1-9 season. What a great group of young men, and they've won 29 games here after signing up with a 1-9 football program. But saying goodbye to them whenever it happens is going to be really, really hard. But anyway, love our seniors.
All right. Well, thank you again, Coach Fitzgerald. We'll be looking forward to tuning in and seeing those red chrome helmets bang into those Tigers this weekend. So good luck in your first round playoff game, and we appreciate you joining us on the show.
Gentlemen, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Y'all are a first-class operation. Thank you.
Okay, I'm ready to suit it up. I get the pads on. What about you? I want to wear one of those chrome red helmets and all that stuff.
Yeah, it was funny when he was talking about some of the coaches and the connections to like Clemson. Like that Bobcat helmet is like a Division I Clemson kind of helmet. I mean, that's the real deal right there. He's got the Regions Cup trophy. They have a swagger about them.
You know what? The first minute or so we were talking to him before we even started recording, I was like, oh, boy, this is going to be one of those intimidating coaches that we're going to be like ready to just get off the line probably after about 6 minutes because he won't be able to tolerate us. And it was anything but that. It was like I could have gone another 40 minutes with him, and we actually did talk to him for a little while afterward because we were just talking about the playoffs in general and everything else. So he's very aware of what's going on all around him and everything else. Mm-hmm. Not that he's not focused on his own game; he is fully. But it's good to see a coach like him in these ranks right now. He is destined for success. What he's done at Frostburg State has been incredible to me. It was a team that I grudgingly voted for in the top 25 earlier in the preseason, and it finally kind of makes sense to me why I was. I mean, I thought they were an okay team, sure, but after hearing him and seeing what he's done and looking at the win-loss records over the years, I'm like, you know what? Justified. It's justified fully right now.
And I think he's actually a sort of a rare breed of coach in this day and age. Not saying our generations were better and all that, but I mean, there has been a lot less coaches like him that are openly criticizing his players and saying, you know what, or admitting to the fact, hey, like, yeah, we're banged up. Hey, we didn't play that well. There were some guys that were showing discipline problems, so we benched them. I mean, that level of no BS, that super honest, like, and hard charging is kind of rare. You don't see a lot of coaches like that at any level of college sports at this day and age. And I mean, he's almost like a Coach Choop. It's like you'd think this guy was like running something like a military academy. It's like, you're in the regiment and you follow orders or beat it. And so I think this Bobcat team has bought into it. Like you said, there was a bunch of these freshman players that came in when they were 1-9. They had nothing going for them. And he's turned them into a perennial playoff caliber team. Yeah, sure, they've come up short against Wesley a couple times. But, man, if this guy is going to have a run at Frostburg, I mean, we haven't had an East Region champion in Division III for a long time. If there is a program that I would pick to win it down the road, it might be the Bobcats.
They just keep getting better. That's the purest example. And it sounds like he's got an administration that's fully behind him and bought into what he's doing. And that's going to be very important. We talked earlier about the Endicott situation where it looks like an administration sort of is not providing the resources from what we're hearing and seeing and everything else. We can't verify one way or the other, but we've heard a lot. And you've seen the trajectory of the team perhaps because of it. Well, you see the flip side of it as well. When they're behind you, the sky's the limit. And look, you have to have good coaching and you have to have resources hand in hand. And good coaches know when they're not getting the resources that they shouldn't be at that spot probably. Again, go back and watch that interview if you have any doubts about what we're saying. Watch it one more time.
The best line is that he's talking about his boss, the AD. He doesn't give me what I want, but he gives me what I need. And that, to hear a coach say that, it really shows that they're running things the right way, and that's why they're in this position. It was kind of a question mark whether they would get left off. They were last year, but this year they made it in, and they're going up against a great Wittenberg team, and they may not end up winning the game, but it's games like this that it's a program builder. So maybe next year they go to the next round or 3 rounds, and eventually, they're going to be going all the way.
So, James, it's that time. Oh, and it's time to make sure that that's in the right spot. There we go. Frank and James predict the games coming up here.
There you
see
go.
That? But Western New England at Delaware Valley will be the first one we talk about. We're going to go about 30 seconds each on this. We're not going to bore you any further, folks. We don't have any more interviews. I think the interviews are much better than us going back and forth like this. But a lot of people ask the question, who do you have in these games? I think it's time to entertain the questions. And I'm going to say that you're going to read in surprises, disappointments, and picks in D3Football.com Thursday that my surprise in this bracket is, in fact, Western New England. Not to necessarily win the game, but to keep it close. I think that there's a certain belief right now internally by Western New England that they can at least try to compete for most of this game with Delaware Valley. They've got a fast enough scoring offense that they can maybe punch Delaware Valley in the mouth early and then, force a catch-up situation. So I think Delaware Valley wins the game, but I think it's going to be by the score of something like 30-21 ultimately, and Delaware Valley going away to get to that 9-point win.
Yeah, I think this is a tough draw, for the Bears. Obviously, like we said before, Del Val's the number 1 seed in the region, one of the top 4 seeds in the entire tournament. They can score on offense and defense, so the Bears are going to have to be patient. And if they avoid kind of the beating themselves, then I think they do have a chance. And they definitely always play better than you think they're going to. But I just feel like this Del Val team is kind of destined for that, that Final Four, or at least, a deep playoff run. So I think they're going to pull away late. It'll be, close to the half. But I think at the end of the day, it's probably be Del Val 47, Western New England 21, maybe 28.
Yeah, it's very, very possible. It's just a question of whether Western New England can convert with the opportunities they have on the plus side of the field, ultimately.
Yeah.
Plymouth State at Brockport. That 99% model of Logan Hansen would suggest to us it'll be 99-1 on the scoreboard or something like that, right?
I think he said something like 33-3 or something. 20. It was a little more lopsided than I think it's going to be, but we'll see.
I'm going to give the edge, obviously, to Brockport here. And I think it's going to be lower scoring than some people would like to see, but that's because Plymouth State's going to be able to run for some first downs, take some time off the clock, and not allow Brockport to just score at will. Might take them out of their comfort zone by doing that, but I'm going to say 27-7 in favor of Brockport.
Yeah, I think it's a long road trip for the Mountain Men of New Hampshire to go all the way out to Western New York. They're probably a low-scoring game. Both are more defensive, run-oriented offenses to a certain extent, but that 3-3 stack of Brockport is going to be tough for Plymouth State to pick up on a relatively, even though it's a regular week, it's unless they're used to seeing that in their conference, which I can't really speak to, that could be the difference in this one. I do feel like it'll be close in the first half, but Brockport slowly pulls away with a couple of long pass plays from Joe Germinerio, and they'll win it about 35-13.
RPI at Wesley. Here's the problem I see coming up here for RPI. I think Wesley's still playing that 3-3-5 defensive scheme, if I'm correct. And this is something that George Marinopoulos may not be fully versed in, with all those defensive backs running around. And a couple of those defensive backs obviously are going to play a little linebacker as well, because that's just the way that scheme works. So it's going to take a mature read at all times. And I think that's where this game goes a little off the rails. You're going to see a couple of early interceptions possibly by Marinopoulos in this situation. We'll see. I hope I'm wrong, because I don't want to see the freshman lose his confidence early, because if he does, then this thing's going to go lopsided. But let me say, I'll finish by saying Wesley wins this game 37-17. It's not going to be a complete rout. This is not the Hobart game, because I think RPI's matured since that point.
I'm kind of right there with you. But I think it's going to be more of E.J. Lee, maybe finding a few holes here and there. Marinopoulos is going to struggle with the speed of the defensive backs and linebackers that he's going to see is definitely faster than anything from the Liberty League or the Empire 8. So that'll be an adjustment. If he can adjust, then they've got a chance. But I don't know if RPI has the receiving core to really create separation from that speed. So unless Mike Tavinis can really, get something going with the ground game and really the offensive line, then it's going to be a long day for the Engineers. But I think Wesley will probably, do their typical sort of slow start. RPI will be in it for a pretty good amount of the game, but I think eventually Wesley pulls away and wins it 35-24.
Husson at Springfield. Like I said, I think that the Husson offense can nullify the Springfield defense, or vice versa, however you want to look at it. But I think it becomes, a moderate pace of scoring for Husson ultimately, where they get a couple touchdowns. But I think Springfield gets a lot more offensively because I don't see Husson's defense matching up in a way that could stop them the way they need to. The size is there right now on those backs. The only thing that can go wrong here is if Springfield fumbles the ball with the triple option or throws an interception or two. I don't see that happening here. I just see Springfield in a situation where they're going to have all the past NCAA teams that they've had. They've been invited back for this game, I know. They're going to really take advantage of the home field advantage, and Springfield wins this game 42-20.
Yeah, I think it might be a little lower scoring, but I do think that what's being, once again, sort of lost throughout this whole season because of the ridiculous offensive yards and points that the Pride put up is the fact that this defense only allows 88 rushing yards per game and less than 11 points per game scoring. And I think if, John Smith and company start to running, into that brick wall long enough and they have to start trying to pass or stretch it out and some interceptions or other things happen, then things could really get away from the Eagles. I do think the Pride will win 24-14. It'll probably be a pretty cold, brisk day up there and near the Berkshires. So
possibly
ball
rainy.
Control will be, which would make it even worse. But I think it's going to be a lower scoring game, but I do feel like the Pride will capitalize on a few turnovers and pull it out.
Frostburg State at Wittenberg. I think you called this one probably the closest one you saw coming up here, at least in terms of the matchup. I'll start one more time on this one. I think that Frostburg State has enough battle-tested positioning here. I mean, look, we talked about it with Coach. They had to basically look at that Wesley loss, look at 2016 and say, we can still make the playoffs even though under the same scenario we didn't a year ago. And they still came out and won those games. I sort of had them for dead 2 weeks ago. I didn't think they were going to make the playoffs. I didn't see them as a viable Pool C candidate at that point in time. And they came through and did it. And so here's my thought. I think with that loss at Wesley, it probably was the best thing that could happen for them in terms of the long run here. And I think it's prepared them for a game like Wittenberg. I say Frostburg State wins this game. It's going to be close, 27-24 in favor of Frostburg State.
Yeah, I mean, my only experience with Wittenberg was when Hobart played them in the second round in 2012. And I know that their conference, the NCAC, is a solid one, but they're not at the same level as some of those other Ohio or other Midwestern / Wisconsin type of conferences. It does seem like, their quarterback could make things challenging for the Bobcats. And, but it's hard to tell kind of looking at, there's such a limited crossover. But yeah, I think Coach Fitzgerald sold me. I think the Bobcats are going to surprise us and kind of pull this off in an upset. I think it'll be more of a shootout type of game. And so I'll take them to win it 35-31.
Well, folks, that's it for this show. It's been about an hour and a half worth of show, ultimately, with all the interviews and everything else. So that's why we want to get it out to you with a couple days to spare before the playoffs begin. But make sure you tune into D3Football.com's little thing we're doing called the D3 Bracket Blitz, which is just like what we did in week 10, the D3 Blitzer that we did here.
That's right.
We sort of ran the pilot to help out D3Football.com to evaluate if they could pull something like this off. And James and I will be joining you alongside Pat Coleman throughout the day on Saturday, bringing you highlights or live look-ins from the games. So you want to join us for that. Go to D3Football.com. That's where the links will be for that. And thanks to the NCAA for giving us the rights to do that, or at least D3Football.com, the rights to do it. Our name is not attached to the show, but at the same time, the response we got from the Week 10 Blitzer definitely gave us the impetus to move forward with it. Yeah. JB, we'll have some stuff next week after these games are done.
Yeah, and over the weekend, I mean, check us out at D3FB Huddle on Twitter. We'll be tweeting scores and highlights from the various games. It starts off really with the Merchant Marine Buffalo State ECAC Bowl game on Friday night. There'll be 25 East Region teams playing this weekend. So we'll be covering all of those a little bit on our own on Twitter, but also at D3Football.com for the NCAA playoffs. We've got a game on Sunday, Saturday night with Ithaca and Salisbury. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and keep up with us and use that hashtag D3FB, and it'll be a fun weekend for sure.
Enjoy the games, folks. We'll see you this weekend and next week.